Good morning, Susie Dingle's Shadow here, and how could I resist coming out on this beautiful morning with all the birds' song in the eastern exposure. The sun is so gorgeous this time of the day, and we're going to get some vegetable seeds in. It's so nice having you all joining me here in the garden. It really is an extra added element for me that I just love, and I think of you when I'm filming, and very, 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 very blessed to have you all watching and subscribers. Thank you. It's wonderful. I love your comments and suggestions, especially. This time of the day, the golden hour, is so lovely, and it's the perfect kind of light for these greens. Now, later in the summer, it's going to be shadier here, which will still be okay because they'll get afternoon sun. In fact, it will be ideal because they'll be protected from some harsh sun. Get these plugs out of here. It's not easy to do. Yeah, I usually try and just press down on these, but it didn't work. They're in there tightly. So I'm going to have to come along and try and pry them off from the back. Sometimes it doesn't end well. We'll see. Honestly, with things like this, I usually have goggles to protect my eyes. This should work. I don't know if you were able to see what I did, but I pried up underneath and then used the hori-hori as a way to just, the leverage of it, to just pop it out. There. Okay. Well, that went easier than most of them do. Clean these guys up, and then I'm ready to plant. I need to plug up the holes on the pots, and to do that I usually use one of three things. Either some coir, this is coconut fiber, and this is a pot I still want to use, but if it's disintegrated enough I'll just rip it apart and I'll lay it over the hole. I can use the moss, and I think I'm going to use that today. Sometimes I even use dried leaves, so it just depends on what I have on hand. And you know, it seems to make sense, some symmetry here for using the moss that we picked up from the patio. I'll just lay it right on top of that hole. Bags of soil are far too heavy for me to lift and take there, and I really don't want to hold the pots back, so I'm going to do it a tablespoon at a time. And I love working with my hands. They smell so good. The soil, beautiful soil, organic. For those of you who might be wondering why I'm not using my aluminum baker's pan to haul the soil back and forth, if you're remembering that video, well, it's occupied right now, and I'll show you just exactly what it's doing. There it is. And if we take off the tools, and the brick. And we open it up. Prepare yourself. We open it up. Imagine my shock when I went into the garage and found the plastic chewed on my fertilizers. Yeah, okay, time to call the exterminator. In the meantime, this is keeping the little culprits at bay. I have another one, but it's also, I can see that we're still getting some rays of sun that are up and past that tree. So that makes me happy, and when the summer comes along, we'll even have more sun. But I think probably we'll get at least 5 hours, and probably more like 6, which will be plenty for what I plan to grow here. Bok choy, spinach, kale, collards, lettuces, things like that, arugula, all my greens. I'm shooting for about 1 inch to 1.5 inches on the down from the top of the container, and I think that's pretty good. Now I have to figure out what I'm going to put in here. There it is, Mizuna, white stem pak choi, and cut and come again mustards. It was a really hard decision because I want to get everything planted, but you gotta see which ones make the cut. Right now I'm just feeling really a craving for bok choy. I could eat it every day. It's crunchy stems, and these grow fairly tall, up to 18 inches. And all of these will be ready, I'm gonna say, in 40 days at the very most. And you can start harvesting is just as soon as you see the leaves coming up, and just take a few. The mustards are fabulous. This is a mix. And then the Mizuna, which is also in the brassica family, it's like broccoli and cabbage and such. I like it. It's really prolific. Some people don't like it because it's kind of pokey, but it really is a prolific plant, and you can just keep cutting it and it'll come back time and time again over the months, and it doesn't lose its vigor, and it's slower to bolt than other types of greens that I've had here. So that's what we're going to do. All of these are 1/4 inch deep in the soil, so I'm just going to sprinkle them. I'm going to do 1 pot of the bok choy all on its own, yes, and then I'll mix the mustards and Mizuna together in this one. And then I'll cover it up with 1/4 inch of seeds, soil. Yeah, soil. It's getting tired. I want to get these in the ground. They're very tiny seeds, the bok choy, tiny and round. So I'll scatter those about 1 inch apart. It's not exact. I do try and stay away from the sides of the containers because I find that that's more dry there, and they just tend to grow better when you get them more toward the center of the container. This is a fun seed to do with kids because they can handle it. They're small, but they're round, and they come off the fingers really well, and kids like to feel. Now this is fresh seed, so I expect that darn near all of these are going to come up. I decided to use only fresh seed right now that I just got because last year I made a big mistake. I've never done this before. I left my seeds out overnight, and it misted, rained enough, even though I had them covered with a towel, that they got damp, and I had to dry them all out. But last year they came up. They were viable. But I'm not so sure about this year, so I just want to start out with fresh seeds, and that's all well and good. All right, I'll just pat that down a little bit. I do like wearing my gloves, I do, but there's times where I just want to have my hands in the soil. Then we'll cover that up with a 1/4 inch. What is a 1/4 inch, you ask? Less than a half. I just use instinct. I don't measure, you know, with any kind of depth finder or anything like that. You just don't want to bury it too deep. And the idea is you want to keep the light away from the seed so it will germinate. All right. Now you don't want to go like shoving this around once you have the soil, topper soil on it. You just want to pat it. Everybody knows that. Silly Susie. Right. Then watering this in, needless to say, gently, very, very gently. This soil's kind of moist, slightly. Not a lot, but it's perfect. It's perfect soil. So I might not even water these in tonight. We'll see, because it's kind of getting cooler, and I'll probably just water them first thing in the morning. Okay. Keep going. These shallower containers, I have a few of them. I will use those. I've grown greens in these, the same kind of greens in them before, but I think I'm going to use them for some cut and come again, some lettuces, some of the smaller microgreens, and I'll start harvesting those once I plant them. That could be even 30 days. And some radishes, because I like the radish leaves, and I love beet greens too, so gotta get my greens going. Okay, this is the mustard. It's also in the brassica family. All these are really good for us. And there they are. This is a mix, so I have no idea which one is which. I suppose I could look, try and figure it out by the color of the seed, but I don't know. I'm not going to take the time to do that right now. I don't have a tag handy, so I'm just going to use just any old tag. I know that this is not lemon verbena in here. I know that. So this will tell me what pot it is. It has the mix in it. Plus I have this video, right? That's always handy. And yeah, the mustard. More mustard. Mizuna is a mustard. So again, little round seeds. Oh yeah, they're really tiny. Wow. Those are round, but they seem to be smaller to my eye. Do a little bit of mixing just in case my line was off there. And then some soil on it. Had to get at least something in the ground, even though this area is not done yet by any stretch. I'll have lots of pots down here. I still want to clean off part of the patio that I missed, you know, finesse that a little bit. Oh, those last sprays are just beautiful. Ta-da! All right, I'll water these in the morning, and then I'll start setting up the other plants, which I'll show you a different time, because I think this is going to be a long enough video as it is. But we'll come back to this area, and then you'll see the other things. I'd love to know what you are planting, seeding out in your area, what works for you, what greens do best for you, whether or not you've done containerized greens. We have a lot of slugs in this general area of the world, so elevating my pots really does discourage the slugs. Occasionally I'll see them trying to crawl up, but I've really done a good job of eliminating the slugs in my own personal garden, They still come in though. Snails, that's the other one, snails. We still have some of those. It's the next morning and now I'm ready to water in these seeds because I didn't want to do it last night. And I'm just going to use some of this rainwater that was collected in the container. And putting it in the only watering can I have right now that has a good, what's called a rose. That little holes, those holes, that's called a rose. It's the only one I have at the moment. The other ones are too drippy. This one also drips a little bit. See how nice and gentle that stream is? They make them even more fine than this. Sometimes, if I don't have one of these, I will use a very fine colander and pour water into a colander and then just pass it over the seeds quickly. That works too. You don't have to use rainwater. I just happen to have that. This is a really old can. Don't even know where I got it from. Oh, I think most of my watering cans were secondhand. I'm gonna put a little bit more on this one because those seeds were fairly deep. Those were 1/2 inch deep. All right. So we'll just check back in about 5 days, 5 to 7. Thanks for joining me today. And until next time, keep dreaming in the garden, no matter where it is and what you have.